So this is the second half of that first quiz. So 17, I look at, and what gives me a clue is this cube. Okay, these are not perfect cubes, but I do know that they can all be divided by a 4. If I take out a 4 GCF, I'm left with 8v cubed minus 125. Okay, now I have the difference of cubes. So 2v times 2v times 2v will give me the 8v, so that means a is 2v. And 5 times 5 times 5 gives me 125, which means b will be 5. So to finish factoring this, I know the pattern is 2v minus 5. I know the minus because of that. Then I square the a, so that's going to be 4v squared. I change this sign, it's going to be positive. I multiply them. 5 times 2v gives me 10v, and I square b. And I have fully factored. This trinomial here at the end will never be factorable. This second one, I'm going to look and see if I can group. Always with 4 terms, I'm going to see if I can group. It won't always work like we learned Tuesday in class, but I'm going to see if this will group. So this first group has a 9 in common, so I'm going to take out a 9m squared, and that will leave me m plus 2. And this second group has a negative 4 in common, which would also leave me m plus 2. Don't forget, you can always double check. This gives me negative 4m minus 8, which is exactly what I need right here. Okay, so my insides match, so that would be my first factor. And what's left is 9m squared minus 4. I notice that this is the difference of squares, so I have m plus 2, and the difference of squares is always factored like this. 9m squared is 3m times 3m. 4 is 2 times 2, and remember they must be conjugates of each other to get rid of the middle term. Okay, so here's a trinomial, so I'm just going to factor it like a trinomial. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. I'm going to list all the ways to multiply to 18. And just so you know, a Miss Roach trick, if you go to y equals and you take that negative 18 and divide by x, your table will give you the list of all the factors. Okay, so I need the pair that adds to negative 7, which will be positive 2 and negative 9, so I'm going to split that middle. So I'm going to get 6y to the 6th plus 2y cubed minus 9y cubed minus 3. Don't forget that these two pieces in the middle must equal this if I combine them together, so they take on the variables of the middle term. I'm going to group. The first group has a 2y cubed, which leaves me 3y cubed plus 1. The second group leaves me has a negative 3, leaving me 3y cubed plus 1. My insides match, 3y cubed plus 1, and what's left is 2y cubed minus 3. Now you have to always ask yourself, if you have a cube, if this is the sum of cubes or the difference of cubes. And if I look, none of these are perfect cubes. 3 is not a perfect cube in either binomial, so that is fully factored. Okay, in this word problem, I'm designing a marble planter. But the problem is they give me the volume of the inside piece. So I know some volume has to equal 4. So I'm going to have to figure out the length, the width, and the height of the inside part of the planter. Well, they tell me that the walls are 1 inch thick, so if I subtract off a wall on either side of the length, this is going to be 6x minus 2. If I subtract off a wall on the width, this is going to be 3x minus 2. But they also tell me that it does not need a bottom, which means my height stays as x. So I'm going to multiply this together. Length times width times height has to equal the 4 cubic feet. Now, We have a calculator, so we're going to utilize the calculator. So I am going to set this equal to 0 by subtracting 4 to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 4 over here and set this equal to 0. And I'm going to put this whole thing in y equals. In y equals, I'm now going to press my graph, make sure I can see my zeros, and calculate a 0. The only ones I need to worry about are the ones on the positive end, because any 0 that comes over here, if I plug that into my height's going to be negative, so these will not work. So I just need to calculate the positive 0. You will calculate that x equals 1. Now, if I wanted to multiply this all out and do it by hand, I would multiply this all out and subtract the 4, so I would get 18x cubed minus 18x squared plus 4x minus 4. I'm going to attempt to group it. It looks like it might. 18x squared leaves me x plus 1 and a 4. Sorry, that would be minus 1, wouldn't it? And a, oops, minus 1. And take out a 4, and this would leave me x minus 1 as well. My insides match, leaving me 18x squared plus 4. This won't factor, which would give me, this actually will give me an imaginary answer. Think about this. If I set this equal to 0 and subtracted 4, I would be square rooting a negative. This will give me x equals 1. Same thing as I got with the graphing calculator.